back.
But you know what? I found that it was working on that also helped me work in my professional life.
Tell me more.
Ooh, this girl is good. So
Yeesh.
I've heard it.
So let me reintroduce my bestie. She is here to share her career story as well as just have some good conversation about life, career exploration, self-actualization, and whatever that means to you guys and whatever it means to you. So without further ado, would you introduce yourself to the guests?
Hey everyone, I'm Chichi. What do you want to know? Like my work stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how about this? Chichi and I we met when we worked at Target in 2013. I was a business analyst, fresh business analyst at 23, had no clue what I was doing, but I was making good money. And then Chichi was?
I was a merchandise specialist. I was contracted at Target. That was my first corporate job.
See, we can even start there.
That was my very first corporate job. What was I doing before that? Because I graduated 2010, which was like that, recession which was happening right then. Hard to find a job. I also didn't know what I was going. Like I went to school for communication studies, which is a very broad degree, and like, oh, you can do whatever with it. I was like, cool, but like that's too many options for me because I have trouble deciding. But anyway, so graduated, didn't have a job. I was doing like working part-time at Macy's, working. What else was I doing? Oh, I had a few different contract jobs, doing random stuff.
So how'd you find Target then?
One of my friends actually was doing a contract at Target, and she's like, yo, check out this agency that they're hiring people for Target. And I was like, oh yeah, like I would love to get Target on my resume. So that's how I ended up at Target. So I was doing merchandising for Target.com on a special project. So that's when they were trying to
micro-channel?
Yep, exactly. That's the project I did.
Multi-channel, that's what it was. Multi-channel.
I was going to say omni-channel, but is that right?
Well, we went to omni-channel after multi-channel. And so for y'all who do not know what multi-channel is or omni-channel, Chichi and I met at Target. And I think we should go a little bit further back, but I'm going to set the stage here because that's going to give you guys some clues on how she actually got to where she got. For all you guys who've been at home and you've never been in corporate, or if you're interested in getting in corporate, this could be something that's interesting to you. But just a big tip, quick tip. Multi-channel at the time was when stores, merchandising stores, so we were talking about Target, only operated in brick and mortar, meaning they had a physical store. That was just one channel. But once we started to think about shopping online, it's so funny, 2013 was when we were just starting to think about e-commerce.
Brand new.
Yes.
Brand new.
So at the time, it wasn't even called e-commerce. It was just called multi-channel. So one channel being brick and mortar, the other channel being Target.com. And then we came to a place where omni-channel became the word, where whenever she came into the store, she can look at the shelf and see whatever's in stock, but then she could also buy it online. And the theory was omni-channel should allow the customer to buy whatever she wants, wherever she wants, whenever she wants. So that was the project that we were working on. So we both kind of came into Target.com. So Chichi was on special projects. I was on girls' toys at the time, and the rest is history. But
I didn't know you were working on that.
Yeah,
I know that was your project.
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
Yes, we even before I went to stores. Before we started doing the multi-channel thing, yes. We actually had a crazy article being written about us during Christmas because we were out of Bratz dolls. And the article was like, whoever is the business analyst at Target on Target.com needs to be fired. But at the time, that was my mentor, not me. So I was like, that is not my fault.
Get your shit together, mentor. Like, get together. You're talking about you online.
Seriously. So as we get into your career journey, I feel like there's so many building blocks. And I feel like we should start somewhere before, like, Target. Who was Chichi before I met Chichi?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who I am now. Like, okay.
We all be figuring it out.
Yeah, it's ongoing process.
But when I met you, you were a track star. You were turning from track star to professional because you still had a banging body. Not that you don't have a banging body now, but she had a track body back then. It was like, fresh out. Booty was lit. You know what I mean? She still had the cuts right here, and then when we wore crop tops, I had the little B at the bottom of my belly, and she had the track belly. So I'm like, who is this chick with the cuts? you don't see that when you're at work. Remember, when you start making like corporate friends and then you go home and then you start seeing them outside of work, they look completely different.
That's very true. Completely different.
Don't let them think they don't have a life. So
very true. Girl, I don't know. I thought that's too far back. Okay, so I went to the U of M, University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. Graduated in communication studies. I was on the track team, like you said. So a lot of my time was spent doing track stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of time spent doing track stuff.
What was your favorite thing about college?
That's a good question. What was my favorite thing about college? I don't know if this is my favorite thing, but track was such a big part of my life and like took up so much time that it like dominates like when I think about college, I think about like track. Yeah. I spent so much time doing track stuff.
Do you feel like that made up your identity at the time?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like when you would introduce people, you were like, "Hey, I'm Chichi. I'm the track star."
I mean, I was not the track star. to be completely clear, I was not the track star at the University of Minnesota. I was on the track team, one of 100 women on the track team.
Whatever.
I feel like most of my experiences, like so Bierman was the athletic building. Most of my time on campus was spent at Bierman, and like everyone was some kind of athlete. So there was not like oh hey, like I'm in track, because they're like, oh, I'm in this, I'm in that, all the different sports.
Yeah.
I feel like when I meet other people, like, oh, I haven't seen you around. Like, you haven't been around the BSU? I was like, oh, because I spend my time like doing track, and like, oh, okay, well that makes sense because we haven't seen you.
So tell me more about the BSU.
I mean, what do you mean? What do you want to know?
I don't know. I don't even know. Like, what is it?
Black Student Union?
Oh,
y'all don't have?
For those of you guys at home who don't have a Black Student Union, that is what that is.
All colleges.
I wasn't the only one who was lost.
For real?
So, I think at UGA we had BUGA, Black UGA. We might have had a student union, but I wasn't
UGA stand for?
University of Georgia.
Oh, okay.
So BUGA is just Black University of Georgia, right? I'm sure we had an African American student. It depends.
Yeah, there was ASU too, African Student Union.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when you say BSU, I was lost. I was like,
over here, I'm just thinking that everyone.
So you were a part of the Black Student Union?
I was not part of the Black Student Union. There's a room, or I'll say a room, office, not office, hangout space in Coffin, which is like our big student hall.
Okay.
Like all these different clubs had their different rooms.
Okay, so it's like one of those kick spots.
Yeah, you can go back.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
And so they were like, I haven't seen you around. And that's because you were doing track somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we evolved from track star at University of Minnesota, and then she leaves university, and then what?
And then I was lost and confused, girl. I didn't know what I was going to do. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I had this degree. Apparently, I had a bunch of options. I didn't know what the options were.
Okay. When you look back at it, what options did they see for you?
Well, I mean, you can be like a communication specialist. You can do writing. You can do editorial work. You can do options, girl.
But you didn't see those at the time, or you just didn't want to do any of those at the time.
I didn't have enough. I don't want to say this. I didn't have enough exposure to what the possibilities are. I just heard that there were a lot of possibilities.
Got it. Okay. And so, because you graduated with limited idea of what communication could offer, what was the first opportunity you took?
What was the first opportunity? So,
or was it a long time before you had a job after you graduated?
So, like I said, I just started working at Macy's part time, so I just have money coming in. And I was working with temp agencies. So I think U.S. Bank Home Mortgage was my first job after college. I would not call that professional. I was like filing papers. I was like, is this why I went to college? To be filing papers? Like,
when you look back at it, 20 years from now, we're gonna be like, oh, all this filing experience has something to do with my life. I don't know how it all fits in.
Shut up. I was like bitter there because I was like, this is not why I went to college to be filing papers. And then also there are people who'd been there, had started like within the filing stage, and then moved up to the, I don't know what the other stages were, but they're all like
manager or something.
Not even that, girl. Not even that. Like loan processing, things like that. I was like, I don't want to do that. Even if I do move up to something other than this, I don't. That's not what I want.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
So I feel like that's the first nugget you got of understanding like what I don't want.
It was a nugget. I thought that I wanted to work in PR.
Okay.
So I started doing PR internships. So I think I was doing a lot of networking at the time too, with a lot of like people in PR.
How did that come about?
How did that come about? I just wondered if it was someone I was talking to at the time had like put the PR bug in my head, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting.
And you explored it.
I explored it. Yep. I was set. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to be in PR. So I did PR internships. I did a couple unpaid things. My family was like, oh, girl, you must not like making money because you're doing all this free.
Well, see,
you're doing all this free work.
That's what family will tell you. You were in your exploration phase, and it sounds like, well, actually, what happened with PR then? How did you find out what you wanted to do, what you didn't like?
What did happen? I think, so during my, like, information gathering, I met with some people, I talked with some people who are in PR.
Yes.
Like, it's a lot of hours, and then when you're beginning in PR, it's very little pay, and I was like, I don't want to work a lot and not get paid money.
For it.
And that's kind of the way it is with PR until you get to a certain level. And then you have to get up to a certain level before that happens. Yeah. I was like, no. I think I love enough to do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me see what else is out there.
Okay. So you decided, okay, we're going to put PR down. You know what? I feel like that pay your dues mentality, I feel like it's going away. I don't know. Like, you guys can always put in the comments if, like, the pay your dues sentiment is changing, but I feel like with millennials, I guess
I do not recommend that anyone do work they're not paid for. I mean, this was like what year is it now? 2021? This was over 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I sometimes suggest that if you're interested in doing something completely different, like let's say you've been working in finance all your life and you want to work in marketing, I would suggest, like, because sometimes people are like, you need to have 2 to 3 years of experience in order to do marketing. If nobody's going to pay you to do marketing and where you want to really be is marketing, I would suggest go and test it out. Like, work with somebody who's doing some marketing stuff, see what it looks like. Now, the funny thing is, Chichi's currently in marketing, so we haven't actually gotten to that part. Chichi's currently in marketing. So now that I'm even telling someone, hey, if you want to be in marketing, then find somebody like Chichi and go sit with her and then see what type of work she does. What do you think how would you even be if someone approached you and said, hey, Chichi, can I just shadow you doing your job?
They could not. So because of my company, I work in healthcare. It's like sensitive information, and like we're building products and things like that. So I couldn't like have someone like sit and watch me do my job. But I've definitely done informationals with people before and like let them know like in my field, this is what my job looks like. This is what product marketing looks like in my field, and kind of give them my experience, my rundown, what I think, hear what they want to get into, and like share what I suggest for them like going that route. Because marketing can look very, very different in different companies.
Okay. So how does it look in your world?
So in my world, it's like partially. So in product marketing, I'm bringing products to launch or helping promote current products, right? So there's a lot of like message development. There's research behind message development. There's a lot of, I don't know how to say it. It's like you need like to be inquisitive to help like fill gaps in the launch of this product. So mine are not tangible products. Like it's not like a notebook. It's not like a pen. It is programs
or services.
Pharmacy programs and services.
And the end user or the person you're speaking to is the client or the patient of a hospital, or
so it could be like you using Blue Cross and Blue Shield insurance.
Okay.
Your pharmacy side of that.
Okay.
That's an example of an end user. A lot of our clients are like the big health plan, or it's like an employer group. So Target, for example, is a large employer group.
Okay.
So that's like a client.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be marketing to. So it's really understanding like the different audiences and being able to speak to each audience about like, hey, if I'm selling a paper company a notebook, they want to know different things from selling like the actual person who's like buying the notebook. They want to know like the weight of the paper, but like, why would you care about weight of the paper? Like, you just want to write. Like, so it's just figuring out like what parts matter to who.
Okay. So we skipped something because how do we go from merchandising? How'd you go from merchandising to marketing?
Yeah. So somewhere along the way, I was like, oh, I want to be in marketing. I had a friend, so Nelly. I also met Nelly at Target.
You guys will meet her soon.
Yep. And she had gotten a job at the last company I was at, actually, in marketing.
Okay.
And she was in marketing. She got hired. She was a contract. She got hired on, and then they needed a backfill for her marketing contract. And she's like, I know someone good that would like work for this role.
Oh, nice.
So she's the one who actually got me into that marketing role.
I love that.
Yeah. So I'll say this also, for every job, I think maybe every job except for the one I'm currently in, it was not because I applied for the job. It was because like someone else is like, hey, I'm interested, or not only because I applied for the job, I'll say that. There was always like a connection, a relationship that I leveraged to get it.
Oh my
God. So I was like, I was like, I cannot, I'm not just doing blind applications because they don't work, and that just didn't work for me. I think it was also because of my experience level at the time. This time around, it was very different, but like manager level, when you become manager in marketing, it's easier to move around. But specialist level, or just getting the foot in the door, like
it was a little bit more difficult.
It was a little more difficult.
Look, Chichi just put some knowledge on y'all.
Yeah. When they say it's who you know, like it's who you know. So that's the way I first got into the door at that company. So I worked there for I think like a year and a half, and it was marketing, but it was really, I worked on the marketing team, I should say, but it was a lot of just like coordinating project management, more of that stuff on the marketing team. I was like, okay, well, how long can you do that for? Like, I wanted to be able to do more stuff. And the time that, I think it was like a hiring freeze at the company, like all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
So my mentor at the time, she was actually crazy. I ended up working for her. She was starting her own company, so I started working for her company. And again, she was like, "Hey, you want to come work for me?" Like, I was like, "Oh, sure." It's a crazy situation, but I got more marketing experience doing that.
Sometimes it's the crazy ones who bless us. They might be a little bit off, and they're going through whatever they're going through in their life, but then they bless us with an opportunity, and then we get to learn from it.
I did learn a lot of stuff that I'm like, I would never do this. I would never do this again. This is what you should walk away from.
Oh, so that was your second nugget of what do you don't want to do?
Yes.
Sorry.
I'm sure there are nuggets, more nuggets that, in between time. But yeah, it was a wild situation, girl. It was a wild situation.
Okay.
So that was a startup company. So I was the first employee for that. And by the time I left, I think I was there for like a year and a half as well. There were 5 of us, so it was like fast growing.
Okay.
But I wanted stability, I wanted support, I wanted respect, so I left. And actually went back to
your
Prime.
company.
Yep. Because again, I had relationships there. There was a job that was a few levels higher than the job I had left before, and I was like,
okay.
Yep.
Take that.
Took that. Worked there for 4 years, which time got promoted. We reorged, so it got me into product marketing.
Okay.
Learned a lot.
Wow. That's a really interesting career. Now, after all of that, we went from communications degree, found herself in corporate America in merchandising, which was a lot further away from communications, and then got her foot in the door in marketing, not necessarily doing the marketing work just yet, and then got promoted into more marketing type role. Okay.
Yeah.
When did you feel like your communication degree started to kick in, or do you feel like it ever started to kick in?
I feel like I could have made any degree work for what I'm doing.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's real.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's very much like on the job work, because it wasn't like, oh, this like project I'm working on like connects back to this thing I learned in college. Like, no, not at all. No.
That's really interesting, because when I first started my job, the same would be for me. So even though I got my degree in finance, I was working along somebody with a journalist degree. And even though we have even though we're doing the same job, we approached it differently.
Right. Yeah.
So I felt like she was coming from it from a philosophical standpoint, and I'm just like numbers.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your communication degree gives you a different advantage to do what you do versus someone who has like a analytical background?
No, because I think both are, well, especially being in product marketing. So my last job was more message focused.
Okay.
So like there was more writing, more creativity, a little bit more creativity. It was really more so about the writing and the message.
Okay.
And like there was no analytics in the marketing I did. Whereas now the role I'm in now, there's more analytics to it. Because people are like, oh, marketing is like half message, half analytics. You have to be able to merge them both. You can have marketing jobs that's one or the other. Even when I was like applying for new jobs and like having different opportunities, I was looking at an analytical marketing job.
Okay.
So I think that both work. That's why I said that's why I don't think degrees will set you up to like into one specific career. It looks like, I don't know, like an engineering degree. That's more specific.
True. More trade specific.
Right. Trade specific degrees. But like all these liberal arts degrees, like, yeah, you can do anything as long as you can learn. Like, I'm good at learning. So I can learn how to do anything. Like I could.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah.
So huge career, fascinating transition from communication to merchandising to marketing. And that's all work, so I love it. But this podcast is called Work and Play. So what does Chichi do for play?
I mean, let me a happy hour.
Don't we all?
Always a good happy hour. Singing.
Did you get a chance to go to that open mic night last night?
I didn't go. No.
Y'all,
This
Chichi.
week was not a good week for that. I'm on the move, y'all. I'm doing too much right now. So
We gotta
I
get
need
to that too.
I need to rest when I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and Chichi have been on a journey of like exploring our singing talents. And so the funny thing is, before pandemic started, we both set a goal to do more open mic nights.
Yep.
And because the pandemic happened, we didn't get a chance to do it. Either one of us did. So
I did a couple right before.
you did.
Yep.
I only did like one, so I hadn't even gotten on the road yet.
Yep.
But I think that's something that we could track in terms of like our growth and development outside of work when the world opens back up.
But you know what? I found that it was working on that also helped me work in my professional life.
Tell me more.
Ooh, this gross is good. So I did not have a professional voice.
Okay.
Like there were things I'd want to say, and I'd be like, oh no, it doesn't matter, so I'm not going to say it. I didn't like, for example, I didn't like presenting in front of people. This like made me very anxious, and like that also like translated to like, doing anything in front of people, singing, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, you know what, I want to work on like the singing thing. I want to work on this like presenting in front of people thing. And I found like the more I worked on one or the other, that like they're so connected.
Yeah.
And just realizing that whatever you have to say is going to be valid. So just say the thing.
Yeah.
Just sing the thing.
Yeah.
People want to hear it.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, girl.
So tell me, what was that like? Okay, because you got that epiphany, but when did that happen?
It wasn't an epiphany. It was a lot of therapy, girl.
Therapy.
A lot of therapy, girl.
Okay. So you had been doing. So okay, which came first? Therapy and then trying out singing, or then singing, therapy, and then noticing that singing helped your professional voice?
I was doing the singing thing before, like I was active in like my church choir and things like that. So like every once in a while I'll do a little something, but it was always scary, anxiety, like horrible anxiety. And it felt very similar to like when I had like a work thing going on, like and I had to be up presenting, like same feelings. So that had been happening, and I started therapy after I got in a car accident a couple years ago. So in like processing just all the things with life, came up, professional voice, and that's when we had reorged and I had gotten leveled. You know what that means? Or do people know what that means? So
what does leveled
I was
mean,
reporting
Chichi?
to a director, and then we reorged, and I started reporting to him. One of my peers became my manager.
Okay.
So she was in between me and the director who I'd been
So that's
been
what
reporting
leveled
to.
means.
That's I'm not sure if it's a common term. I've used it before. I've heard it a couple times before, but that's what I mean by leveled. So,
So essentially, it's when your peer,
not necessarily the peer, but like if you're reporting to a higher level, then someone comes in between you guys.
Okay, that's what leveled means. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I was like struggling with that as well, especially because me and the peer who I ended up reporting to, we were real cool before, and like,
and now you're reporting to them.
Now I'm reporting to, so I'm like, I can't be. And also the relationship I have. At the time, relationships I had with my managers were very different than relationships I had with my peers. So I was like, girl, we ain't gonna be cool anymore because I'm not cool with my managers like that.
Yeah.
It's like, we're just managers, and like now you're my man. So I was struggling with that, and so that's when the professional voice came up. She's like, you're upset still. So like, have you had these conversations about like why you're upset? Or I was like, no, like it doesn't matter. It's not gonna change anything. She's like, it matters. Like, because she's like, you're steaming. She's like, I can feel your energy. You're like on fire. And like, I'm sure my coworkers could all feel my energy too. And like, I'm sitting there like doing my work, but like boiling on the inside. And that was right before my accident happened, like in that time too. So I think the accident and like having all that going on too, like PTSD off the chain, was all playing into it. But like nonetheless, like still upset. So she's like, yeah, you need to be able to say the things that you want to say and have these conversations, and then, don't just say it doesn't matter because nothing's going to change from it. So she's like, you need to develop this professional voice and like be heard. So it was like in working through that, where I realized, like, okay, well, I need to be heard. I can't just say it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because that's like me like projecting what I need for
whatever story, I guess.
Whatever story I made up in my head, right?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, so like developed this professional voice, had conversations like with my old manager, because I was like, you did this to me, like, girl, like, how dare you?
Like, why did you let this happen?
Why did you let this happen? She was on maternity leave at the time when it happened. Oops, sorry, y'all, alarm.
So did you ever, when you developed your professional voice, did you directly talk to your
directly talk
what
to
does
her?
that look like? So walk us through the conversation you had in therapy, and then how you led up to walking into a conversation with your old friend.
I wish I knew exactly how the conversation in therapy went. So it was like I said, it was like a big marketing wide reorg. So 120 some people got moved around. No jobs were lost, so that was great. Things changed. So in that change, my team was going to be newly developed. I already knew what team I was going to be on, but we didn't know the structure of the team. I knew there was a big possibility because I was a senior specialist level.
Okay.
And in the marketing department as a whole, there are a lot of people who are manager levels.
Okay.
And so I already knew that me being a senior specialist, reporting into a director was kind of a long shot, right? So I figured someone else would come into the team and I'd be reporting to that person. And I was more okay with that because I didn't have that peer-to-peer relationship with the person I ended up reporting to. So anyway, my manager was on maternity leave when all the changes happened. So she's like, I didn't know what the changes were going to be. She's like, I knew the people who were going to be on my team, but I didn't know what the structure was going to be. So then when she came back, I was, kind of cold, a little bit cold to her. Like I said hi and it was the bare minimum. But she's like,
what's going on?
She knew it was different. No, she knew what was going on. She knew exactly what was going on.
Okay.
She scheduled the meeting actually.
Okay.
Oh. Because she's like, I want to have a talk. And so we went to the little restaurant downstairs in our building. I was like, okay, I will have a drink later, but I have some things I wanted to talk to you about. So I had written down notes, prepared. I was like, okay, these are the things I want to touch on. And my manager said, or my therapist said, she's like, if you start naming names, it's gonna sound like sound petty. She's like, let it be about the roles. Let it be about the lack of communication that about the change. Like let it be about those different things.
Okay.
When you start naming names, it's like, oh, I already got promoted. Like why didn't I get promoted? I already got promoted. Like blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Versus what you say to make it about. So yeah, like I said, make it be about the position.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we like talked about that. I'm like, this is how I feel. I feel like these certain people, and like not specific to the person I was reporting to, because she does a good job. It wasn't about her like not doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
But even like looking at the whole reorg as a whole, and some people got promoted in the reorg. I'm like, I just feel like these certain types of people got promoted, and other people didn't get promoted for whatever reason. So anyway, basically just like told her how I felt, kept it like very professional. I wish I had my notes with me to like tell you what to like, because I had like I wrote the things. I'm like, okay, here's my things I want to talk about. So just bullet by bullet, I just went down.
Yeah.
And let her respond. And like after we like talked about it, I felt better. Like I think we all felt like, okay,
yeah,
I'm not loving the situation. I know the situation is not changing. I'm working to adjust to the situation. Like that was part of it too. Like I'm not going to be happy overnight, but like I am trying to adjust the situation.
Yeah.
Let her know I'm trying. So just bear with me, if you will. And actually, in developing my professional voice, my therapist, she's like, make sure that people like know what you want. And like that was something like I'd never like been told before. Like if you want to be promoted, if you're trying to get to a different position, like at the very least your manager should know that.
Yeah.
Not just gonna be like, oh, like you're doing sometimes. Oh, you're doing great. We're just gonna promote you out of nowhere. It's like, oh no, like I'm working on all these different things. This is where I want to go.
Yep.
How can I get there? Am I hitting the mark? What can I improve on?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know to have those kinds of conversations before. So I'm not sure if it was in that exact same conversation or maybe a conversation like very shortly after that. I was like, okay, I see myself doing this kind of work. I'd love to be in a position where I can like influence more, blah, 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 blah. And like a month later when I was promoted by that manager, she's like, I was so impressed by the way you like took the reorg. She's like, I knew you didn't like it. I knew you were upset by it, but I appreciate you like having a conversation with me about it and like being professional the entire time, like speaking to what you want. And the thing that like floored me, which I was like, I should have known. When she was like, oh, we're promoting you, it's like, I want you to work on this, work on that. It was like the exact things I had mentioned to her.
You were interested? Yes.
Yeah, exact same things I said I was mentioning. I was like, oh.
The power of your professional voice.
Professional voice. I had no idea.
Wow.
I had no idea.
Y'all, this is an amazing discussion. Now, I know we're almost out of time, but I feel like if we can put a pin in getting to your professional voice and knowing what that sounds like, I feel like we can leave you guys with something to take home and reflect on and identify what it is that you want in your career. And wherever you've come from, how does that tie into where you see yourself going in your company or where you see yourself going in your life? After you've identified what it is that you want, can you take your professional voice to your manager? And then if they don't deliver on what you've spoken about, then maybe you take your desires elsewhere. But if you use your professional voice and they're able to respond, wouldn't you like a situation like that?
Yep. My manager or my therapist says use the words they use. That's it.
Okay.
Use the words they use.
Look, y'all got the roadmap. So here we are. We are doing our first episode of Working and Playing. We legitimately just finished working. Chichi will come on again to tell us a lot more about her new marketing role because she's only been in for a few months now.
Yeah, I did my 90 days earlier this week.
So we just got a chance to like play a little bit while we worked, and then we will talk a little bit more about her story and how her professional voice is also starting to build on this personal life. So until next time, thank you guys for watching. Chichi, you have any final words for the folks?
Girl, I don't. I'm tired. That's why.
We're about to get out of here.
You can pick up on something else I said.
It is all good.
Stay strong. I don't know.
Stay strong. Y'all have a good one. Peace.